What's happening, everybody? Back with Clark Kahawaii, and we are just going to talk business today and strategy, and maybe applicable to your business if you're in real estate sales or property management or whatever you're doing. But I love to have conversations with people that are doing business at a high level, that have a good vision. And so I wanted Clark first to kind of share a little bit about like the business growth over the last couple of years, so folks have a perspective on kind of where you started and where you guys are at right now.
Yeah, so when I first came in, I came in about two and a half years ago to the team. And so when I came in, I was responsible for specifically the long-term side of our company. That has split recently to where we're two separate companies, but we still work out of the same office, same team, same operation. But since I came in, we doubled our revenue on the long-term side. So that's kind of led into a position where I'm more responsible for growth as a company now. Mm-hmm. And so that has kind of turned into a larger picture, kind of zoomed out business feel, if you will, to where me personally, as well as the rest of our team, responsible for creating movement in general, not just on the long-term side, not just on the vacation rental side, but we want to make the business grow as a whole.
So I want to zoom in on that because I think that was, you breezed over it, but you doubled revenue in really two of the worst real estate years in a long time. and so what do you think contributed to that?
Yeah, so at the same time that you say is a bad real estate year, that actually makes it a pretty good rental year.
True, yes, because we're in the same industry but kind of different parallels.
Because people don't want to buy necessarily, so they rent. Yep. Right, so it was actually a decent year for us. Now, I say that the years before during COVID was really good for long-term rentals because you could kind of ask whatever you wanted. There were tons of digital nomads, people working from wherever remotely, and inflated the market for sure. So it might have hurt some, but it also helped others. So, but at the end of the day, what I attribute any growth that I've had to is the people that I've worked with. So I've kind of realized over time, my experience here in Kona, is it seems like the more I try to fill everyone's cup around me, the more my cup fills. Mm-hmm. And every time I try to make everybody around me rich. Yep. Right? The more you make everybody else money, it just seems to come back tenfold. Yep. So whether that's charity, whether that's business growth, we try to help everybody around us, and we never want to look in anybody else's pocket. I'm never looking, oh, he's making too much, I need to take more for myself. We just see it as if we're helping people, eventually it'll all come back to us.
Yep, I love it.
Yeah, and with that, we put a lot of our emphasis on the work rather than the results. So I've talked about it before.
100% on board with that philosophy, yes.
Yeah, because you can't necessarily control what happens. Yep. You can't control whether an owner decides to go with you because they like you or not. You can only make sure you follow up every time, you take their call, you show up on time, and you do everything you need to do. And otherwise, it's uncontrollable. So as long as we're doing everything that we say we're going to do, it has slowly just become a rolling snowball. And so we've grown pretty quickly.
The results will take care of themselves, right? Process versus outcome. A lot of times people are worried about what are the business outcomes, the number of sales, the dollar volume, but really that is just a byproduct of a process before that you're doing consistently and delivering value at a high level, and the money and the sales take care of itself. So
exactly.
Love it. Okay, so going forward, what are the biggest challenges that you're facing right now in business?
A lot of what we're our biggest challenge right now is actually just the same as our main focus. It's people. Our biggest constraint right now is bandwidth. We're trying to grow strategically. We don't want to grow too fast and dilute our product. Mm-hmm. We have made a lot of promises to a lot of people that we want to make sure that we uphold. And so if we grow to a point to where we can't service the clients that we already have, it's all for naught. It's a lot cheaper to keep a customer than it is to get a new one. Yep. So we are trying to make sure that we have enough bandwidth to grow like we would like to. And with that comes, we're trying to find the best people. So finding great people is not easy. There's a limited resource, especially here on an island. Human resources is very limited. So we're trying to find the best people to make sure that goal can happen. Same with what Dylan has created here at the agency team. What I admire about Dylan's team is every time I see one of his agents, regardless if they're a top producer or one that I just see come to all the marketing events, they are all super excited to be there. Super excited to be a part of the team, and they seem to love what they do. Yeah. So what I can attribute that to a lot is culture that he's built. Mm-hmm. And so I can appreciate that, and that's kind of what we want to do on our side. We don't necessarily need the same amount of people, but we like to have that same kind of culture where people are excited to come to work, people are excited to do what we do, and everyone knows why we're doing it.
So what are a couple of key attributes that you look for in a team member?
We have touched on this so many times in my office. So what we are looking for is somebody who is motivated, self-motivated specifically, mm-hmm. whether they know or they do not, whether they're educated in it or not, they want to help. Mm-hmm. There's a willingness to them. They want to be a part of something that is for the greater good for everybody. We want to make sure that if the company succeeds, everybody in that room succeeds as well. So we put our own incentives in for our employees to where if we succeed, everyone succeeds. Yep. And we always want to make sure that at the same time that we're growing, if people in our organization want to grow, that there's an opportunity for them.
Awesome. All right, so what do the plans look like for the next couple of years?
Next couple of years, other than world domination,
yeah.
we're trying to grow. Like I said, we want to make sure that our processes are perfect, our people are in the right place, we're getting the most value we can out of each person before we do that. But at the same time, if you're not growing, you're dying. Mm-hmm. So we're always growing. We just want to make sure that we do it to a point to where we don't sacrifice quality, because each property, like I've said in the past, every property that we manage is a very highly valuable asset. And so we want to treat it as such, and we don't take it lightly. So whatever we can do to grow at the same time as creating the same quality that we always have.
So how is the technology landscape, AI, stuff like that? Are you seeing anything effects on your business or ways that maybe you can leverage it to grow and improve the business? I mean, what's that looking like?
Yeah, so it's actually short-term rentals and even long-term rentals, property management is a somewhat young industry over the lifespan of mm-hmm. human life, yep. right? So Airbnb just started in 2009.
Yep.
It's only been around 15 years. So software is slowly getting up to speed. Right now, there's so many different softwares that provide one solution. So property management, there's so many different things that go into it. Whether it's
accounting, marketing,
reservations,
booking.
Exactly. So there's slowly starting to become more movement on that side. Softwares are starting to partner up, integrate with each other so that reservations operate with guest experience software, which operates with key metrics and revenue management. And all of these are starting to slowly work together. AI is being put into these softwares too. So we could actually create a marketing description with AI in our main software. So I don't know if your realtors use AI at all for that kind of thing, but...
Yes, they do. I'm not a huge fan of it because you can almost tell when a listing description... Well, marketing description is different than a listing description. Yeah. But a listing description, when they use AI, you can kind of tell if they don't do any editing to it. Mm-hmm. But the thing about AI, which is I'm really fascinated about, is to me, that's like the really surface level use for it. It's useful, it's easy, it's helpful, mm-hmm. It saves you some time. But I've really seen some agents, we actually have a guy speaking at an event coming up that is using it at a really deep level where you ask AI to ask you 25 questions about your business, and then you answer those questions, and then you ask it to take those answers and create a social media marketing plan for the next 12 months, and then it'll do that, and then it'll actually create the posts for you and come up with a schedule so you can like really go deep with it versus like create me a property description, right? You can do that. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think we're just starting to scratch the surface, and we'll see really sophisticated agents start to use it at a much higher level. And it's exciting times.
Yeah, for sure. You know what? It's only as good as you are, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people see AI, and I've heard people say, "Oh, I'm scared of AI. They're going to start taking our jobs." And I'm like, AI with human will always be better than AI. So if the human is using the AI to the fullest extent, it'll always be better than an AI just operating, because it can only do so much.
Yep.
At the end of the day, our main business points of what we've been talking about is people, right? So if people is our main growing factor, our main focus, AI can always help, but it cannot totally replace what we do.
Like, for example, one of the things we've used it for recently is, there's all of this discussion about the buyer's rep agreement and buyer compensation, and a lot of agents are really, really worried and concerned about how to have that conversation, and went through a process using ChatGPT to find out what are the biggest objections that a buyer may come up with in this whole process. And then when we got that list back, we could use that to base our training off of, right? So create objection responses and different answers to the questions that were coming up. So instead of like us kind of figuring out on top of our head, we at least had a framework to start working off of. Then we could customize, and then we created a workbook and a handbook for agents to use, and a scripts, role-playing toolkit and things like that. So yeah, those are the kind of things where if you just ask AI to generate it for you, it's not going to be valuable to your people, I don't think. But if you use it to create a framework that then you can add your expertise into and your specific market information into, it can be extremely valuable and more complete than you could kind of figure it out on your own. So
very cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to start using that in my business.
There you go.
We need to start using it. We use it at a very surface level.
Yeah.
I've dabbled it on my own personal side. Yeah, that's actually a great idea.
So let's talk marketing real quick. Like on the marketing side, I know what we do is very different. On the property management side, like what are your main marketing efforts and maybe successes and challenges in that area?
Yeah, so kind of tying into what I've talked about so far, a lot of our marketing is word of mouth. Now, we are trying to be a catalyst to that word of mouth, but we deal with so many different people, so many different clients, if you will, in different capacities. So our owners are our main client, of course. They're the ones that own the properties that we're managing, and they're the ultimate driver. But at the same time, we're also talking to vendors, we're also talking to guests, we're talking to tenants, and all of these people have their own network. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to leverage as many networks of people that we can to get the name out. Because at the end of the day, if you have the best product but nobody knows about it,
doesn't exist.
Exactly. So we're trying to make it to where we've noticed that the best, at least the most valuable bang for your buck has been in investing in people, investing in their networks, and kind of getting the word out through there. And referrals are usually the easiest, I guess, leads to convert, of course, because they're from somebody that somebody else trusts. So making that barrier of entry as easy as possible is what's worked out for us up to this point.
Yeah, and that's always one of those things where referrals are the best, but we do a really poor job of asking for them sometimes, right? Like I think that's like a business failure at every level. Is you always say, I love referrals, and then I always ask agents, well, when's the last time you asked for one? Like if you're just waiting for them to come in, that's great. But if you asked every once in a while, you probably get a lot more, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So whatever you can do to lean on those people, especially the ones that you have a strong relationship with, you only make the relationship stronger when you take care of the people that they refer to you. Because if you do a poor job for their person that they referred, they're not going to be mad at me. They're going to be mad at the person that referred them, because that's the person they trusted. So when we do get referrals, we do not take them lightly. They're taken with extra care, and we make sure that whatever we can do for that person, even if we don't end up representing them, if we can give them information that helps them down the line.
I have a specific personal example on this. Recently, a couple months ago, because a lot of people think like the referrals go one way. Like we get clients that need property management. I send them to Clark, and he takes care of them. But it goes both ways sometimes, because they don't do sales. So if he gets an owner that says, "Hey, I'm thinking about selling," he'll refer those folks back to us. And I was just telling agents during some training recently, that he sent me an owner that was thinking about selling, and I literally called every single day for 6 days straight because I couldn't get them to answer, and they wouldn't return any phone calls. And some people think that's like aggressive or whatever. You can judge that however you want. But the way I look at it is Clark entrusted me to get in touch with his client that he said, I'll have one of my best agent friends call you and give you a market analysis. I had a responsibility to make contact. I could have called them one time and never called them again. And then if Clark calls them next week and talks to them. They say, well, never heard from the guy. Who knows if they got my message or they saw the missed call or whatever it was. And so you really have, I tell agents, you have a real responsibility to really put the extra work in. And the reality was the client was just busy. They were on a trip, like they weren't at home or whatever it was. It wasn't like they were ignoring me or they weren't responsive. It was just like life happens, and we have a responsibility to do the right thing and work hard and take good care of those referrals. So appreciate that. But I mean, that was a good, actually use that, incorporate it into some of our training, because I think we give up too easy sometimes, and that's just the world we live in, right? I mean, sometimes you're busy and you can't return a phone call for a couple of days, and so just keep calling.
And to that point, if you might be providing the most value you can, if you're not letting the person that you're serving know that you're providing that value, it's in their mind, you haven't provided it.
Yeah.
If you close a sale, even as a real estate agent, if you close a contract where you get to represent the owner now, and you start doing all these things, trying to find people to repair their home, and you're getting the listing ready, doing the marketing description, and you don't tell them that you're doing any of that for a week, and then they call you and they say, well, what's happening? Nothing's happened. Ultimately, you haven't provided any value because they don't even know about it. So it's the same thing as people not knowing about your product. Let the people know that you're serving, what you're doing for them. Because it's hard, especially when they're off island or somewhere else remote, to know exactly what's going on their behalf.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my themes in our coaching and training is provide value before they ask for it, right? Like if you can, especially on the listing side, we have this program and this process where if we get a listing lead, somebody who wants to meet with us and maybe interview a few brokerages, we create them a owner website, not a website that's going to go public, but an owner website that has all the information about their property. We have previous marketing so they can see examples of that. We put all their contract documents so they can start to evaluate those contract documents. We shoot a video CMA for them so we can do a market analysis via a video where we're talking them through that process. And we do all of that before we even go on the appointment, right? So we don't wait to go to the appointment and then start to provide value. It's like we're going to provide you with a ton of value, show you all the work we're going to do, and at that appointment, we can focus on building a relationship, asking you questions, and then the other agents you meet with are probably going to bring a printed PDF that everybody has that they got from the same vendor that just changed out their name and their picture and stuff, and it's a different level of service. But that's one of the things that is really important to me is let's prove our work ethic and the value that we're going to provide far before you even asked for it, and that's just going to prove to you what the rest of the experience is going to look like, because you didn't have to wait to hire us to actually get any type of value. So.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know you guys did all that.
Oh, it's crazy. We have this crazy listing system. Yes, it's a crazy, but it's extremely high converting because you're just doing something that other people are not gonna do, and I'm a big believer in winning the business before you even have any competition, right? So if you can do so much work and provide so much value that by the time the evaluation of your competition happens, you've already beat them, then there's no game to play at that point, right? And so. It's a preemptive strike,
Yeah, essentially it's putting you in a market of one, right?
Correct.
Nobody does what you do.
When you show the client what the other folks are not doing without having to tell them, right? You don't want to badmouth anybody. You don't want to, you don't want to say anything like that. But if you show them like, I'm going to do 50 things for you, and this person didn't do anything yet, and then when they make their presentation, they only talk about 3 things out of the 50 that you already did. Like it makes the decision making process really, really easy, right? So yeah, just a different way to think about it. But that's a mindset that you have to have people, like you're talking about, the right people dedicated to doing the work with no expectation of return, because a lot of people don't want to do any work until they're sure they're going to get paid, and that's just not how our business works. So
great to know.
What else, man? What else?
We're good. The market in Kona is just it's so dynamic right now. I think on the real estate side as well as the rental side, and we've just on a pure market standpoint, everything started to kind of stabilize after COVID. 2022 things spiked like crazy because people could start traveling again.
Yep.
So, and then last year was still had that push from 2022. So this year the market's finally stabilizing. So we're starting to get real numbers that we have seen before. So it's starting to become a little more predictable. Of course, things like the pandemic don't always happen.
You might not have specific data, but what's your feeling on, I feel like one of the market dynamics that's causing issues, I mean, good or bad, is that people aren't selling because they have a really low interest rate and they don't want to sell. So in your experience, like, do you feel like there's less owners that are choosing to sell and they're holding on to their low interest rate, or what does that look like?
Yeah, actually. So we didn't necessarily take interest rate into account, but we have seen a lot of owners that are establishing vacation rentals for the first time. So if you look at market dynamics right now.
So what do you mean by that? They're the first time buyer, or they're transitioning their property to be a vacation rental?
They've lived in it or they've owned it and haven't rented it ever before.
Okay.
And now they're turning it into a rental for the first time. So a lot of people would think with all these regulations going on that the vacation rental pool would be going down, but it's actually going up right now. And it's a lot of that is because probably to your point that people don't want to sell because they have such a good interest rate that they're deciding to rent instead. And so a lot of these homes are being put in, a lot in the resort zones up north are getting put into vacation rental for the first time. And so it's creating a new market, not a new market, but a new volume that we haven't seen before. So it's a little contrary to popular belief. But yeah, that's actually a good point. It may be that reason.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, if you either own the property free and clear, you have a very low mortgage on it, and you bought it 10 years ago and your mortgage is $2,000 and now you can rent it for $6,000 a month or 10 grand a month if it's a vacation rental, and you have a 3% interest rate because you refied at the right time. Like, why would you sell that asset? It's a cash cow, right? So
exactly.
That's an interesting dynamic I wasn't aware of, that people are actually,
so
instead of selling and moving to the mainland, they're just renting it here, drawing that income off of it, and then maybe moving back to the mainland or something.
Not to mention it's going to appreciate at least $50,000 a year. This amount, right?
Right.
So it's a win-win for them to hold on to it, and a lot of these are in resort zones anyway, so it's a natural progression.
Yeah.
So
good stuff. All right, well, good discussion, man.
Thanks for having me.
Always appreciate you taking the time. Yeah, it's always good to get different perspectives from different people in the industry, and Clark's one of those guys I really respect and admire what he's doing. And so if you got any questions for him, we'll put his contact information in the comments below, and he's easy to find online, and I'm sure we'll do this again soon.
Sounds good.
Right on. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.